Hey everyone, welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be tackling something that I know a lot of you are curious about.
Okay.
Staying active with chronic conditions,
Mm.
especially as we age.
Mm.
It can feel kind of overwhelming,
Oh, yeah.
but that's why we're here,
Right.
to make it a little easier, a little more fun, and hopefully a lot more insightful.
Definitely. And to help us do that, we have some great guidance from the National Institute on Aging.
Yes.
They're a top-notch source. So, we're dealing with solid research here.
Absolutely. And one thing I found really eye-opening right off the bat was this idea that
Yeah.
almost anyone can benefit from exercise.
Mhm.
Regardless of age or health challenges, it's easy to just sort of fall into that trap of thinking, well, I've got this condition, so exercise is off the table.
Right.
But this source is saying, hold on a second. It might actually be the key to feeling better.
It really might. And it's not just a feel-good message either. The science backs it up. The source specifically mentions things like heart disease, arthritis, chronic pain,
Yeah.
high blood pressure, and diabetes, and really emphasizes that physical activity can play a huge role in managing all of these.
Huge.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about, becoming a marathon runner overnight.
No.
Right.
Right.
We're talking about finding ways to incorporate movement into our lives,
Mhm.
even if it starts small.
Absolutely. Think of it this way. Every little bit counts. Even activities like brisk walking, gardening, or swimming can make a world of difference. The key is to find something you enjoy and gradually build from there.
Now, one area that I know a lot of you are interested in is the connection between exercise and cognitive function,
Yeah.
particularly as it relates to Alzheimer's and dementia. What does research say about that?
The research is actually quite encouraging. Studies suggest that exercise may have the potential to slow cognitive decline and even improve brain function in those who are at risk for Alzheimer's.
Wow. So for those of you listening who are worried about memory or thinking skills as you age, this is a really important takeaway. And for those who are already living with dementia, can exercise still be beneficial?
Absolutely. Exercise can be incredibly beneficial for those with dementia as well. Think about it.
Yeah.
Exercise boosts mood, helps with weight management, and can even improve sleep and bathroom habits, all of which are crucial for maintaining quality of life.
And I'm thinking about caregivers too.
Yeah.
They play such a vital role. Are there any tips in the source for helping someone with dementia stay active?
There are. The source recommends things like short mini workouts, dancing, and adapting activities to suit the individual's abilities. They even suggest using simple tools like exercise bands or even household items for strength training, which is really creative and accessible.
I love that. It's all about finding what works for the person
Right.
and making it enjoyable. And it sounds like even small steps can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Remember, consistency is key.
Right.
Even small bouts of activity throughout the day can have a cumulative effect.
Okay. So let's talk about another common condition that many of us face as we age. Arthritis.
Mm-hmm.
I know from personal experience that it can be incredibly debilitating. But what's fascinating is that this source actually emphasizes how exercise can actually reduce pain and stiffness for those with arthritis.
Yeah.
That seems almost counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It might seem that way at first, but think about it. When we move, we're lubricating our joints.
Yeah.
We're strengthening the muscles that support them, and we're improving our overall flexibility. All of those things can contribute to reducing pain and stiffness. And when we combine exercise with weight loss, which often goes hand in hand,
Yeah.
that further lessens the stress on those joints.
Makes so much sense. So what types of exercises are particularly helpful for those with arthritis?
Well, the source breaks down 3 key types: flexibility, strengthening, and endurance. Flexibility exercises like stretching or Tai Chi are all about improving range of motion. Strengthening exercises, such as arm raises, help build those muscles that support the joints. And then we have endurance exercises.
Right.
Things like swimming or cycling, which are great for heart health and tend to be gentler on the joints.
Yeah. I like how they offer concrete examples like that. It really helps paint a picture of what this might look like in practice. And I also appreciate that they emphasize the importance of being mindful of pain levels. It's not about pushing through pain, right? It's about finding a balance that works for you.
Exactly. Listen to your body. It'll tell you what it needs.
So we've covered a lot of ground already. Alzheimer's, dementia, arthritis. But there's still so much more to explore. Let's shift gears now to conditions like COPD, diabetes, and heart health. These are areas where exercise acts almost like medicine, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah, a great way to put it.
Yeah.
The link between physical activity and managing these conditions is undeniable. And what I find fascinating is that the source goes beyond just saying exercise is good for you.
Right.
It actually provides really specific insights and examples for each condition.
It's not just general advice.
Right.
It feels very actionable, which I think is what we all need
Yes.
when we're trying to make positive changes.
Absolutely. Like for individuals with COPD, the source highlights the benefits of something called pulmonary rehabilitation. Have you heard of that?
I have, but to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what it entails. Could you shed some light on that?
Yeah, so pulmonary rehab is basically a structured program
Okay.
that combines exercise with education to help people with COPD regain strength and manage their condition. It often includes things like breathing exercises,
Right.
strength training, and education on how to conserve energy and manage shortness of breath. Think of it as a personalized toolkit for breathing easier and feeling more empowered.
Wow, that sounds incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, for those who might not have access to a formal program like that,
Yeah.
are there any simple exercises or activities that they can do on their own to help with COPD?
There are. Even simple activities like walking can be beneficial for COPD. The key is to start slowly and gradually increase the intensity and duration as your body adapts. And of course, it's always a good idea to check with your doctor before starting any new exercise program,
Right.
especially if you have a chronic condition like COPD.
And what about diabetes? How does exercise fit into managing that condition?
Well, one of the most compelling things the source points out is that inactivity actually doubles your risk of developing heart disease. That's a pretty sobering statistic, right?
Yeah, it is.
It really highlights the importance of making movement a priority.
It definitely does. And I remember the source sharing a really inspiring story about a man named Sidney who started exercising after bypass surgery and saw significant improvements in his well-being. It's a reminder that it's never too late to start incorporating exercise into your life, no matter what your age or health history.
Absolutely. Sydney's story is a great example of how even small changes can make a big difference. And it speaks to the idea that exercise is not just about preventing disease, it's
Yeah.
also about improving your overall quality of life, feeling more energetic, sleeping better, having a more positive outlook. Those are all benefits of exercise that can make a huge difference in how you feel day to day.
So true. Okay, so we've talked about COPD and heart health, but what about diabetes?
Oh, right.
How does exercise help manage that condition?
So the source explains that regular physical activity can actually improve your body's ability to use insulin,
Okay.
which is the hormone that helps regulate blood sugar levels. So by exercising, you're essentially helping your body do its job better,
Right.
leading to better blood sugar control and reducing the risk of complications from diabetes.
That's incredibly valuable information, and it highlights how exercise can be a powerful tool for managing chronic conditions. We've also got osteoporosis and chronic pain to cover. So let's dive into those. What does the source say about exercise and osteoporosis?
Okay, so for osteoporosis, the source really emphasizes weight-bearing exercises like walking, jogging, or dancing. These types of activities help build bone density,
Okay.
which is crucial for preventing fractures,
Right.
especially as we age.
That makes sense. And are there any other types of exercises that are beneficial for osteoporosis?
Yes. The source also recommends strength training and balance exercises. Strength training helps build muscle mass, which can further support your bones, and balance exercises are important for reducing the risk of falls,
Right.
which can lead to fractures, especially for those with osteoporosis.
So it's a multifaceted approach.
Yeah.
Weight-bearing exercises for bone density strength training, for muscle support, and balance exercises for fall prevention. That's really helpful information. And what about chronic pain? I know that's a huge issue for so many people,
Yeah.
and it can feel like exercise is off the table when you're dealing with constant pain. What does the source say about that?
This is where it gets really interesting. The source actually challenges the assumption that exercise is bad for chronic pain. In fact, they suggest that inactivity can actually worsen pain and limit function. They explain that most people living with chronic pain can exercise safely, and that finding the right types and intensity of activities can be incredibly beneficial.
So how does exercise help manage chronic pain? It seems counterintuitive that moving more would lead to less pain.
Well, think about it this way. When we exercise, we release endorphins, which are our body's natural pain relievers. Exercise can also help strengthen muscles, improve flexibility, and reduce inflammation.
Right.
All of which can contribute to less pain over time.
Fascinating. So it's not about masking the pain.
Right.
It's about addressing the underlying issues that might be contributing to it.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that exercise for chronic pain is not about pushing through pain.
Yeah.
It's about finding activities that feel good and gradually increasing the intensity as your body adapts.
This is all incredibly valuable information. We've covered so much ground today, but I feel like we've only just scratched the surface. I'm sure our listeners have lots of questions and maybe even some personal experiences they'd like to share.
Absolutely. And this is a great opportunity for us to open up the conversation and hear from our listeners.
So as we wrap up part 1 of our deep dive, we want to hear from you. What are some of the challenges you've faced when it comes to staying active with a chronic condition? Or maybe you have a success story you'd like to share. We'll be back in part 2 to address your questions and discuss some practical strategies for overcoming those common barriers to exercise. Until then, keep exploring and stay tuned.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. You know, it can feel like 1 step forward, 2 steps back sometimes.
It really can.
You know, you have a good day and then the next day you're just wiped out.
Right.
But the source really acknowledges this. It's not about being superhuman.
Right.
It's about working with what we've got.
Okay, so let's break it down. I know time is a big one for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
We're juggling work, family, maybe even caregiving. Where does exercise fit in?
That's a good question. I mean, how do we find the time for all of this? This is where the bite-sized fitness concept comes in.
Okay.
The source really emphasizes that you don't need hour-long gym sessions to reap the benefits. Even 10-minute bursts of activity sprinkled throughout your day can add up.
I like that. So instead of thinking, I have to carve out this huge chunk of time, it's more like, where can I sneak in some movement today?
Exactly. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Walk or bike to errands if possible.
Yeah.
Or even just stand up and stretch every hour if you have a desk job. It's about finding those little pockets of opportunity.
Now, what about the motivation monster? Some days it just feels like willpower takes a vacation.
Oh, yeah. It's like motivation who?
Yeah. Any advice from the source on that front?
They really hit home on the importance of finding an activity you genuinely enjoy. If it feels like a chore, you're less likely to stick with it. Think outside the traditional gym box.
Yeah.
Maybe it's dancing, gardening, swimming, joining a walking group, something that sparks joy.
I love that. And I imagine having a support system can help too, right?
Absolutely. The source encourages finding a workout buddy, a friend, a family member who can keep you accountable and motivated. Sharing that journey with someone can make all the difference.
And I know some listeners might be thinking, this is all well and good, but what if my health condition makes exercise feel risky? That's a valid concern.
Completely valid. And the source addresses this head on.
Okay.
Their advice: talk to your doctor.
Yeah, makes sense.
They can help you create a safe and effective exercise plan that takes your individual needs and limitations into account.
So it's about having that open communication with your healthcare provider.
Right.
And not being afraid to ask questions.
Absolutely. And remember, it's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
Start slowly, listen to your body, and gradually increase the intensity and duration of your activity as you feel stronger.
I love that. It's like that old saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Exactly. And sometimes that first step is the hardest, but it's also the most important.
Right.
Celebrate those small wins, even if it's just a 5-minute walk. Every bit of movement adds up.
So as we wrap up part 2 of our deep dive, we want to leave you with this.
Right.
What's one small, manageable step you can commit to taking this week to incorporate more movement into your life?
Don't overthink it. Maybe it's putting on your walking shoes for 10 minutes, putting on some music and dancing in your living room.
Yeah.
Or taking a yoga class online.
The possibilities are endless.
They are.
What matters most is that you take that first step and keep moving forward.
Keep going.
Remember, you're capable of more than you think. Thanks for joining us on this journey. We hope you feel empowered to embrace a more active life one step at a time. We talked about some of those common roadblocks, like time motivation and feeling like exercise is risky. But what about when those roadblocks become more like road closures?
Ah, yeah, when those challenges feel extra tough.
Right. Like let's say someone is dealing with chronic pain that's really flaring up. Or maybe they have a limited mobility. What does the source say about staying active in those situations?
Well, it's really all about adapting and modifying. The source emphasizes that even small movements can make a difference. Think Chair exercises, gentle stretching, or even just moving your arms and legs while lying down.
I see. So it's about finding what works within those limitations
Right.
and not giving up on the idea of movement altogether.
Exactly. And it's also important to remember that rest is just as crucial as exercise,
That's true.
especially when you're dealing with a flare-up or an injury.
So listening to your body is key.
Always.
Knowing when to push and when to pull back.
Absolutely.
Now, what about the mental and emotional aspects of staying active with chronic conditions? I imagine it could be quite a journey.
Oh, it definitely can be. The source acknowledges that dealing with a chronic condition can be challenging both physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
They encourage individuals to be patient with themselves and to focus on celebrating small victories.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly.
And I think that's a really important message to keep in mind throughout this whole process. It is. So as we wrap up our deep dive today, we want to leave you with a final thought. Think about how you can make movement a part of your daily life in a way that feels sustainable and enjoyable for you.
Right. Maybe it's incorporating those 10-minute bursts of activity we talked about, or finding a workout buddy who keeps you motivated, or maybe it's simply taking a few moments each day to stretch and breathe deeply.
The most important thing is to find what works for you and make it a part of your routine. Remember, staying active is a journey, not a destination.
Absolutely.
And every step you take, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you feel inspired and empowered to keep moving.